Buttons are one of the key interactive elements that you'll use on forms. They instantly tell the end user that something will happen when I click here. Buttons will be linked to either macros or Visual Basic code to control their behavior. You can also add buttons to reports in order to increase their interactivity and aid navigation or filtering. The nice thing about that arrangement is that buttons won't show when printed when placed on a report. Let's see how they work on a form. I'm going to go to our Controls form and right-click on it and say Design View. In the Design tab of the ribbon, in the Controls group, we'll find our button object. It's this one here with the rectangle and the 4 X's. I like to call it the button button. Let's go ahead and select it, and we'll add one into our form by clicking. That'll start up the Command Button wizard. Here we get to choose what we want our button to do when we click on it. We have a couple of categories here, and then within each category we have several actions. In the Record Navigation category, we can do things like go to the first record or go to the last record. Underneath Record Operations, we can add a new record or delete a record. Underneath Form Operations, we can apply form filters, close forms, open forms, or send forms to a printer. Underneath Report Operations, we can email a report, open a report, or print preview a report. The Application category only has one action, and that's to close access. That's Quit Application Action. And finally, underneath Miscellaneous, we can run existing macros or queries that might have been pre-written and that live in our navigation pane over here. Let's go ahead and choose Form Operations, and we'll say Open a Form. I'll go ahead and press the Next button. Now Access wants to know, well, which form do we want to open? I'm going to choose to open up the employee directory. Let's go ahead and say Next. Here, we're given the option to open the form and find specific data to display, or we can open the form and show all of the records. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on the default to open the form and show all of the records, and I'll press Next. Finally, we get to style our button. By default, it wants to choose this picture icon, this MS Access Form icon, and you can see a preview of it right over here. If we want, we can browse out to our computer to choose other icon files that we might have, or I can choose Show All Pictures to choose from an available listing of all the icons that come with Access, and you can browse through and see what they look like. Let's go ahead and leave it on this default here. Now, if you were to see this button on a form, would you know what it was about to do? It's a pretty generic icon, so generally I like to have the text option instead. But instead of Open Form, I want to know specifically what we're going to do. So I'm going to highlight this and change it. Instead of saying Open Form, I'm going to say View Employee Directory. We'll go ahead and press the Next button, and we'll accept the default name here and press Finish. That adds our button into our form. Let's go ahead and go test it out. I'll switch my view here, and I'll click on my button. And just as expected, it opens up the Employee Directory form. Let's go ahead and close this down and switch back into Design View. We can start changing some of the properties of the button by going over here to the Format tab. Here, we can choose from some quick styles. And if I click here, we have a gallery of color styles that we can choose from. For instance, maybe I'll choose this orange color here. That'll change the outline and the fill color and the shape of the button. If we want to change the shape from the rounded rectangle that it's the default, we can choose another one from this Change Shape button. For instance, I can choose this one here with a notch cut out of it. And if I click off of it, we can see that change as well. Over here, we can change the fill color or the outline color. And here we can add some shape effects. For instance, drop shadows or glow effects, or some soft edges, or even bevels. So we have lots of options for styling and coloring our buttons. And these effects can be fun to play around with. But I'm actually of the opinion that less is more when it comes to form design. And adding to the visual clutter of your forms doesn't make them any better. So make sure that you're applying these types of visual changes with a light hand. I'm going to go ahead and leave all the defaults to no, and click off of that. Now, as you might expect, there's additional properties that we can change over here in the property sheet. For instance, this caption property here is the text that appears on the button. Right now it says View Employee Directory, and that's exactly what it says right over here. If we wanted to change it, this is where we would do it. We can also add in a picture icon, this picture caption arrangement here. Right now it's set to no picture caption. I can change that to put a picture, for instance, to the right. Now that I've made that change, we need to choose a picture to add. I'm going to go down to this picture property where it says None, and I'll click the Build button. And we get a listing of all the available pictures just like we had in the wizard. Let's go ahead and find that MS Access Form one. I'll go ahead and type in an M, and then I'll scroll through the list until I find MS Access Form. There it is right there. Let's go ahead and say OK, and that adds it to my button here. Let's go ahead and make my button just a little bit wider so all the text fits on the screen. And there's our button there. We can keep going through the property sheet and changing other properties if we'd like. For instance, there's a background color property here. We can change the hover color, or what color appears when you hover your mouse over the button. We also have a pressed color, so when you click down on the button, what color does it change? We also have these two called Hover For Color and Pressed For Color. That controls the color of the text when you're either hovering over the button or actually clicking on the button. But my favorite property for the buttons is this one here called Use Theme. Right now it's set to Yes. When you change this to No, Access clears out all of the color and effect properties and resets it to a very basic appearance with very subtle hover and click styles. I like how clean and uncluttered it looks, so this is my preferred button style. Let's go ahead and click off of it and we'll take a look at it. I'll go to the Home tab and switch my view, and we can see my button here. It's this really nice subtle gray color, and when I hover over it, it gets a nice subtle blue color. Let's go ahead and go back into Design View, and we'll take a look at a couple more properties. Let's go ahead and select the button here, and I'm going to switch over to the Other tab here. The property Cursor on Hover changes the cursor when you hover over the button. Right now it's set to default. I'm going to change it to Hyperlink Hand. We can also add this control tip text. This will show a little pop-up flag when the user hovers their mouse over the button. For instance, I can say opens a form. Let's go ahead and change our view, and we'll see the effect of those changes. When I hover my mouse over it, you'll notice the cursor changes. And if I pause for a second, I get the little pop-up flag. One more time, we'll go back into Design View, and we're going to take a look at the Event tab. Now, when we went through the wizard, Access created this on-click event. This is telling the button what to do when you click on it, and it set it to this embedded macro. If we wanted to, we can use the drop-down list here and choose from a different macro that we might have pre-written that lives over in the navigation pane. Or we can edit what this macro does. If I want to edit the macro, I'll just select it here and then press the Build button over here on the far right. That'll open up a macro editing session. And you can see that we're currently in the Controls form here in the Command 6 button, that's the name of our button, and it's the on-click event macro. Right now, the macro only does one thing. It opens a form. And here we have some details about what this form is. For instance, we have the name here. Now there's some additional properties inside of here that the wizard didn't give us access to. For instance, we can change the window mode. I'm going to change it from normal, and then way over here we have the drop-down list, and I can change this to dialog instead. Let's see the effect of that change. I'll go ahead and close this window. I'll go ahead and save the changes, and we'll switch our view. Now when I click the button here, our employee directory opens up as a pop-up window instead. So buttons provide the main interactive element in your Access databases. They leverage macros or Visual Basic code to perform their actions and are instantly recognizable for your end users. When someone sees a button on a form, they already know that when they click on it, they'll affect the database.